Welcome to another episode of Average Jocks. This week is Adam's first week as a full-time host. So welcome, Adam.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We also welcome probably our most entertaining guest so far, Jeremy Roenick. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
How you doing?
Not too bad yourself.
I'm great. Where are you guys? Vancouver?
We are in Cornwall, about an hour from Ottawa.
I know it well. I know it well. Been there many times. Many times.
That's
Good
unfortunate.
spot.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I'm not there now. It's too cold for my ass. I'm in San Diego, so
Oh, fuck
yeah.
you.
That's a lot better than it is here.
Yeah.
yeah.
Honestly, I was half ready for like an episode of Catfish. Just have some random pop on.
Yeah.
All good, man. This will be better than Catfish. Kidding?
All right, perfect.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We'll hop right into it. We won't waste any time. Jeremy, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Any Canadian podcast is good with me because we get to talk a little good hockey, and I'm sure we'll hit a lot of different subjects. But it's great.
I just want to let you know you can curse as much as you want on here. It is not
I will, even if you tell me I can't. So, but
that is perfect. That is exactly the content that we want.
Yeah.
From this episode because normally I'm like the rowdy one, so it's nice to have somebody that I feel is probably going to match my energy level.
Yeah, well, my reputation precedes me, so I think it'll be okay.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, perfect.
Adam did his fact checking on you. He did a lot of
it's not true
work over the last week.
It's not fucking true.
Yeah, it's not true. Well, I guess so, eh? No, but I did a few things. Actually, sorry. The first thing is, I know you got drafted in '88. My cousin also actually got drafted in '88. He actually went 2 picks before you. You know who I'm talking about?
So 2 picks in front of me was Thornton.
No.
Was it Thornton? So it was it Martin Jelena?
Close. That was
Jelena was 7. I think Jelena was 7. I wanted to say Scott.
Yeah.
Did I say Thornton was wrong? Scott's. I remember
throw the guy a bone at him. Jesus,
because Scott Pearson.
Yeah.
Because he almost knocked me out in Toronto one year.
Yeah.
Hit me so hard that I might have gone out on my feet, but I don't think I went out. But he hit me so hard one year, and besides him being drafted 2 in front of me, that's kind of my best memories of Pearson.
I mean, I guess that is pretty funny because we are from Cornwall.
I got his first name.
That's all that matters. That's half the.
You know what? He hit you so hard you didn't remember the second half, so that's okay.
There you go. I didn't get the license plate. I missed it.
Yeah.
So I remember. I mean, we grew up watching you, and I mean, Adam's a little older than me.
I'm 28.
But I mean, I remember you as a Philadelphia Flyer, and I remember one of my first NHL games I ever played was ESPN 2004.
Yeah,
and I remember I think that was one of the photo shoot photos that I sent you. You had like the tongue out with the stick hanging.
Yeah. Well, I did a commercial for that one, and I did it with Tracy Morgan, and I remember doing it in New Jersey, down at the pier, the boardwalk in New Jersey. And you can see it. You can go watch it on YouTube. It's actually quite the funny commercial. But when I was filming it, the commercial with Tracy Morgan was a one shot. It was a one-hit wonder, and it had to go one time because Tracy Morgan did not know how to skate. He'd never been on skates, never been on ice, and you will be amazed when you watch this video on YouTube. So just YouTube Jeremy Roenick, Tracy Morgan commercial. You will see that he does every one of his lines so perfectly when still trying to stand up. He's trying to stand up, and literally he is holding on to me as he's trying to deliver his lines. And the fall at the end was so perfect, the most perfect timing, and was not staged. You guys will get a kick out of that commercial. But that was a good video game, and I remember that was an awesome cover. I looked like a badass on that cover, so I loved it.
Yeah, no, it
Yeah.
was so cool. And we were just talking, like I think that's the only video game they actually let you do like the skills competition, and the hitting in that game was ridiculous.
Yeah, well, that's part of the commercial too, because that's what Tracy Morgan says in in the video. Is I've done the skills competition. I got fast, I'm agile, and I'm accurate. You got to watch it. It's truly fun to watch.
We'll put a link to it in the
Yeah.
podcast description. So do you want to touch? I guess we'll chronological order from here. We'll go
Yeah.
from we'll talk about kind of your early days, and we'll work our way towards the tail end.
Yeah. So when you got drafted straight out of high school. How was that for such a young guy coming into the NHL? How was that?
Well, it was very unique. There's no question about that. Back in the 80s, the National Hockey League didn't draft high school kids in the first round, especially kids that were coming out of their junior year and that weighed 150 pounds. So for me to get drafted in the first round was, I wouldn't say that it was surprising because I was ranked in the first round, but it was not a very, it wasn't very popular for the National Hockey League to do that. I can't remember many high school kids, with the exception of Bobby Carpenter, Brian Lawton, Tom Barrasso, that really got drafted out of high school. Tom Peterson maybe did, but he wasn't first round. But it was a cool time. It was an interesting time, but it was scary too because I did turn pro that year at 158 pounds. I actually gained 8 pounds over the summer, and I looked like I could have been most of the players I was playing with their kid at the time. It was quite intimidating.
So Adam, I think you said that Jeremy actually he had like, well, you have the numbers. I'm not going to
Yeah.
try and fudge the numbers. He had like what, like 20 points in 30 games or something
Yeah,
at the start.
your first season when you got drafted, you played 20 games, and then you went to play in the Q, ended up scoring a whopping 70 points in 28 games. Was there a reason why you started in NHL and then switched to the
All
Q?
right,
Was that
all right. So I got to so you're like I said, your early bio is wrong. Your
Oh,
research is wrong.
there we go.
So I'll get you right
That's
on
perfect.
pace.
That's why we have
Yeah.
you.
Nah, so I made the team. I played the first 4 games, and I went pointless in the first 4 games. And unfortunately, Mike Keenan came to me and said I needed a little bit more development, a little bit more tutelage. Wanted me to play against some players a little bit more, maybe my size. And he gave me the opportunity to. They were not going to send me down to minors because I would have gotten eaten up by the ferocity of the minors. So I could either go to Hull, Quebec, who had drafted me the last pick in the Quebec Major Junior Draft, or I could have gone to the Ontario League. I could have gone to where's the city I got drafted to? Well, it doesn't matter. It was one of the teams that had the worst travel in all of the Ontario League. So um, I had grown up watching the Quebec League, so I decided to go to Hull. Gretz owned Hull. Gretz at one time asked me to go play for Hull. I told him no when I was 14, so I just thought it was a good fit. So I went and played in Hull, and I played there until January. I left for the World Juniors, and I ripped up the Quebec League. I think I had 26 or 27 games, had like 72, 73 points. So I made a mockery of of that stint. And then I actually got back in the World Juniors after breaking all the American records in the World Juniors, hurt my knee, and did not play the whole month of January because of a hurt knee, and then got called up by the Blackhawks in an emergency recall situation on February 13th, the day before Valentine's Day, to go play in Minnesota, and ended up scoring my first goal. And I played so well. I scored in the first game, I scored in the second game, scored in the third game back, and Mike Keenan didn't want to let me go because I was playing so well. So Mike Keenan told our trainer, "Hey, all the guys that are hurt right now, you have to make sure they stay hurt because we need to keep JR up on this emergency recall situation. We don't want to send him back to junior." And I ended up playing 20 games with the from that point on. That season, I played 24 games, and I think I had like 18 points or 20 points or something of that nature. But definitely when I came back from junior, I started lighting it up. And the next year, obviously, I was up for Rookie of the Year and had an amazing year, which was pretty cool.
Well, no kidding. And I mean, to get praise from Mike Keenan, he's not known as somebody who gives out compliments or praise very often.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely not. It was more of a screaming match with him. But he taught me to play the game right. He taught me to play the game hard. He taught me to play it with ferocity. He taught me to play physical because I was never a physical player. Obviously, at 150 pounds, you're not known to be a hitter. But I learned that to use my speed to hit. And literally, Keenan scared the hell out of me and scared me to death, saying, "If you don't hit, you don't finish your checks, you'll never play in the league." And I learned to do that at a very young age, and I grew to love it, and the fans loved it. So it was kind of like I had that triple-edged sword, right? I had the goal scoring, I could play make, and I can hit you really hard. So you can hurt a lot of teams in a lot of different ways.
So before we move on to you setting all these American records and tearing it up in the World Juniors, can you give us your best Mike Keenan impression, like in the locker room, like you're trying to pump these guys up going into to OT in the Stanley Cup final?
It's Mike when Mike Keenan was more of will you wake the fuck up? You're nothing but a fucking piece of shit. Get out there and start fucking doing something. Show that you can fucking play in this league. You fucking pussy. That was Mike Keenan.
You know what? That sounds a lot like my house league Pee Wee coach. Yeah. That's very good.
Yeah, that's how he would talk to you in the locker room to get you going. Yeah.
Well, that would definitely light a fire under my ass. And like you said, at 17 years old and 158 pounds, mustache he was rocking back then. That's enough to scare anybody.
No question.
Yeah.
Adam, you have JR's fucking. Can I call you JR? I feel like JR is probably
100%, absolutely.
Thank God. That's where we've made it now on the show. We can refer to Jeremy Roenick as JR.
100%.
So do you want to touch a bit on his records and kind of
Well, when you played in the World Junior, you said you broke all those records and they held till 2010. I think I read.
I think it was a little bit later. I think it was 2014 or 15 when that Schrader finally broke it. But Schrader Schrader played in 3 World Juniors. Yeah. You got to remember, I played in 2. Yeah. So he had a little extra help.
Well,
but it's since been passed by Trevor Zegras too. So it's gotten broken again recently by Trevor Zegras, and he's a pretty special guy too.
Yeah, he's a hell of a hockey player.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, being somebody that has set records, especially for the Americans, how would you say, I mean, we're watching history as Canadians, seeing Connor Bedard beat the Canadian record. How would you say, like, obviously he's projected to go number 1. Like, does that kind of solidify when you're at this tournament, the numbers that you put up? Does that translate necessarily to NHL level hockey?
Oh, 100%, because it's a step up from where he is right now. And he's just crushing the junior ranks, obviously. And it's not that he's ranked number 1. He will go number 1. It is the Connor Bedard stakes, right? It was like when Connor McDavid was getting drafted. It wasn't, well, he will probably go number 1. It's Connor Bedard. Its teams are fighting for Connor Bedard, which is pretty awesome because these are the kids that make the game exciting. These are what the league looks forward to have players like this kid back in the game. And right now, the way it looks, I'm feeling pretty happy about the way Chicago Blackhawks are playing because they have a pretty good chance of getting this kid. And that could be a big change like it happened in the early 2000s when the Hawks were the worst team in the league. And all of a sudden they draft Jonathan Toews 3rd overall. And they got lucky with the draft lottery and picked Patrick Kane the next year, number 1 overall. And look what happened to them. So, it's exciting for Chicago right now, not for the way that they're playing, but to know that they possibly could get a generational player like Connor Bedard. It's pretty special to watch. And watch what he's doing in junior is definitely opening up everybody's eyes because he's stepped up in a level, but still he's dominating it like nobody ever has. And that's a good sign.
Yeah, no, he's such a fun player to watch. Even his OT goal the other night against the Slovaks, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, his IQ level is just far above anybody that he's playing his own.
Yeah, it's a lot like Connor McDavid, right? I mean, to me, Connor McDavid's the best player that's ever put on skates in terms of talent wise. Um, you can argue with the Marios, you can argue with the Gretzes, with the Gordys, and all that stuff. But in terms of what someone can do on two blades, I don't think there's anybody that's been able to do the things at the pace and the precision that Connor McDavid's been able to play the game at.
That's a hot take. Actually, I've never heard someone bring McDavid up immediately. Usually, like you said, the Lemieux and the Gretzky's get brought up first. But I think I do agree
I'll
with
tell
you
you right
on
now.
that
I'll
one.
tell you right now. If Connor McDavid played in the same generation as Gretzky and Mario, he'd have 350 points a year.
Yeah.
I mean, the kid would shred everyone. Um,
You know
he
what?
had
I think
100.
that speaks volumes that you're
Yeah.
saying that because you played against these guys. Like, or I
Well, it's a
guess not.
different.
Not. I
It's
mean, probably
it's a
what
different.
tail end of Gretzky, but
It's just a different generation. I mean, this generation, the kids are way more talented. They are in ridiculously better shape. Their bodies have been built literally to play the game. They take care of their bodies. Their equipment is much better. There are so many things that make today's player and today's generation much more. I think um, entertaining and dynamic than back in the late 80s, early 90s. I mean, the goaltending in the early 90s, I remember some goaltenders didn't even want to go down on the ice because they were afraid they weren't even going to get back up, or it was too hard to even get back up, let alone now these guys are doing backflips and, splits, and, the way that they cover the net and how agile they are and how fast they are and what good a shape the goaltenders are right now. Um, I don't think I saw an ab on a hockey player till I was 26 years old,
holy shit,
which
who was it?
which is it wasn't me, that's for sure. Yeah, but it's a different generation, and to watch Connor McDavid dominate a league that has so many phenomenally talented players and fast players and strong players and agile players, and it's pretty mind blowing, tell you the truth.
Yeah, and whenever you mentioned like the goalies, like guys not even want to go down because of how tough it is to get up, it made me think. I seen on Facebook yesterday, like Gump Worsley got a slap shot to the face, goes off to the dressing room,
Yeah.
and whatever passed concussion protocol, and he had a beer and then went back out for the third. And I was
There,
just
there, there
like,
was no, there
there
was
you
no,
go.
there was no, there was no concussion protocol back there. It's stitch it up, make sure you get the blood to stop. Yeah, probably slammed the beer and got right back out there.
Yeah,
No question.
that's how
Yeah,
hockey should be
That's
still.
awesome.
yeah.
Well, that's another thing too. You're one of few guys to score 500 goals in their career. Do you remember who your 500 goal was against?
I know it was against Phoenix, and it was against Wayne Gretzky, who was behind the bench, which is great because that was the team that I came from, and I was kind of at odds with both at the time. And to score my my 500th goal against the Coyotes was pretty special because I spent 6 years with Phoenix. So um, it wasn't the prettiest goal. I dumped it in, and actually went off the partition and caromed into the net. And the goaltender actually hit it into the net by himself. So in actuality, I should have got the assist on the goal because that goaltender actually shot it into his own net. But since I was the last to touch it on our team, I got the goal, which is probably one of the ugliest 500th goals of all time.
Hey,
But
it
I'll
went
take it.
in. It went in. That's all
Yeah,
that
as
matters.
somebody that has scored
They don't.
zero, so
Hey,
that's
listen.
awesome.
Somebody told me a long time ago. It's not how. It's how many.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
yeah.
So I mean, you mentioned you played in Phoenix for 6 years, and we'll try and stick, like I said, the chronological order of your career. But you have Connor Bedard. I mean, chances of going to Chicago are pretty good amongst some of the other bottom dwellers. I mean, most of the teams you play for are probably at odds for this lottery draft right now. Phoenix, San Jose, Chicago. I mean, other than LA, I think
Anaheim,
they're the only playoff
Anaheim,
spot team.
Anaheim. Yep.
Yeah. Um, I mean, a lot of those are non-traditional hockey markets. How would you say it is going to play for those teams compared to like an original six like Chicago?
Well, I mean, it's good for those areas because there are a lot of hockey fans. Arizona does have a lot of hockey fans, especially if you put the building in the proper place. People are going to come. There's no question about it. Anaheim has shown to be a good hockey town. When they have a good team, they will come out to support. Um, San Jose, when I played there, was probably one of the most exciting places to play in the whole National Hockey League. We had a sold out building every single game. We probably had more jerseys on people per seat than any other building in the National Hockey League, and it was as rowdy as any building in the National Hockey League. You put another great team into that building, and the fans are going to come back and support it. That's what a Connor Bedard will do. The energy that kid will bring to a team, regardless if it's an original six team or a Sun Belt team or whatever the case may be, is going to bring people into the stands, which is probably why Chicago's playing so bad, so that they can get that point. And I do think that Chicago is probably going to get rid of either Jonathan Taves or Patrick Kane, or if not both, the trade deadline, and assure their miserable ending, but still bolster up their draft list and their picks in order to rebuild to help Connor Bedard here in the next 10 to 15 years. So I can see that happening too.
Did you play under Gretzky in Phoenix?
I did for my last year in 2006, 2007.
What like we had this debate with Jamie McLennan actually, and we were talking that the players on the ice, like the better players on the ice that have translated into coaches, aren't necessarily the best behind the bench. They actually, most of them have losing records in coaching. How was it playing for arguably, I mean, other than Connor McDavid and Sidney Crosby, one of the best players to ever play the game?
It sucked, actually. It was terrible.
That's the conclusion that we came to, that it would be
Yeah, yeah,
not a great
yeah.
experience, but
I mean, I love Gretz. I mean, I do. I love him to death. He's a friend of mine, and I think he's the best player, and the smartest player in the history of the game. Followed, I mean, you can argue with Mario, but no, it's Gretz got a bad. He got a bad deck of cards in Phoenix. He didn't have a very good team. Um, to be the best player and expect your team to be good when you're not given, the best hand is tough. And it's tough for Gretz too, because it's tough to be Wayne Gretzky in general. I mean, you have people pulling him from all over the place. In order to be a good coach, you have to be in that locker room all the time. You have to be hands-on. You have to be talking with your assistants all the time. You have to be watching tape. You have to be studying other teams. It takes a lot into being a coach. And Gretz didn't have that kind of time in order to do that. He relied a lot on his assistant coaches in order to do that. And, I think it's very unfair to think that Gretzky would have been a good coach. Let me say also, he was fun in terms of the fun aspect, right? He knew what it should be like in the locker room. He knew how to deal with the players. But as far as everything else, there was really not much of the coaching from Gretz. But yeah, most of the people that played the game, that played the game really well and was very successful, it's very hard for them to, because I would never be a coach, because I don't think I'd be able to handle the lackadaisical type of or the inadequate mental part of the game that I see in a lot of players right now. The gritty aspect. I wouldn't take losing very well, or people not scoring goals in perfect situations. You have more expectations for yourself, and when you do have that, you kind of put those expectations on other people, and sometimes you just can't handle that. But that's my take.
Yeah, I got just a little bit of I see on the bench nowadays, guys are drinking. I know Ovechkin drinks flat Dr. Pepper. Some guys drink Coke. I've seen guys take mustard packs. Like, what was the craziest thing you've ever seen a guy do, or like get himself hyped up on the bench or before a game?
I watched Chris Chelios drink a beer on the end of the bench, because Mike Babcock sat him
yeah,
at
that
the end
was
of the
a
bench.
Winter Classic.
No, this is in a regular game. No, this is
Oh
in a
shit!
regular game.
Okay.
Yeah, this is when he was playing in Detroit, and Mike Babcock was benched Chelly. So he sat at the end of the bench, and he grabbed a beer from one of the people in the first row, and literally just enjoyed a beer with somebody. So he says, "Listen, if I'm going to be a spectator, I'm going to enjoy a beer and watch the game from the best seat in the house."
I can't remember if it's Chelios, but I know Babcock benched somebody at the Winter Classic, and they had their kid go and fetch them beers. I'll have to look up who it
Yeah,
is
I
after,
mean,
but no, I
Hey,
remember watching the Winter Classic.
I had a couple beers in between periods of the Toronto All Star game back in 2000, I believe it was. So it's all right.
hey,
Nothing wrong with it.
hey, that's right. That's how it is in Canada. You drink a couple beers and just play some hockey. I guess. Yeah,
100%.
So I guess kind of moving on now to your NHL stuff. I mean, you played in some. I mean, Philly to me is a big hockey market, as is Chicago. Like, did you feel going into those locker rooms just the sense of the history that comes from those teams?
Definitely in Chicago, no question about it. Walking into the old Chicago Stadium, knowing that was one of the most iconic buildings ever built, and I still have not played in a building that is as energetic and as rowdy and had the atmosphere that the old Chicago Stadium had. Let alone you look into the stands and you see in the rafters and see all the the jerseys that have been retired and stuff like that. It's pretty unbelievable knowing the history of the original six. Even though Philly was not an original six team, they are pretty close. Back in the I think it was the 70s or
Mm-hmm.
60s when they came along. That they were. I think they might have been top 10 um, first teams in the National Hockey League. But their history with the Broad Street Bullies was what made going into Philly so cool because it had that mentality of being tough, being rugged, knowing the fans cheered exactly the way that the players they expected the players to play, right? That's in your face and tough
Mm-hmm.
and hard hitting, hard nose.
Which I
Um,
mean made you a fan favorite right off the bat.
well, listen, when I signed there, I had the media ask me, was I nervous signing in Philly, knowing all the pressure that the fans put on and how hard it was to impress and to satisfy the sports media and the media in Philly. And I said, no, they should be afraid of me because um, because I'm gonna give them everything that they could possibly ask for. And you know what? I did. I went in there and I played the way I think that fans expected me to play. And right from the bat, whether it was a fight, scoring goals, or making big hits. I think I played the Philadelphia way right from the start, and I have one of the best relationships with Philly fans still today. No matter where I go, I run into Philly fans, and they are not shy to come up to me and let me know where they're from and thank me for the time that I was there. Even though it was a short time, it was a very, very powerful time that I was there.
Well, I know just because of my age, when I think Jeremy Roenick, I think Philadelphia Flyers. I think tough, like in your fucking face hockey, which is
Absolutely.
how I modeled my game. And unfortunately, unfortunately for that, cold in grade 9, I didn't make it. But
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
All
um,
good. All good.
yeah, in the next life, in the next life.
Yeah.
Um, So, I mean, we talked about two cities you loved playing in, and I'm not going to ask you to tell me the place you like playing in the least. But was there ever a team like I know nowadays GMs give it out like candy, the no trade clauses or the partial no moves, or you can pick 10 places you don't want to go. Like, was there anywhere that you're like, fuck no, I am never going to play there?
Not really. I mean, I hated playing in Winnipeg. I did not like playing in Winnipeg.
Yeah, it's cold. That's what I'm saying.
I remember the coldest I have ever been was the 20-yard walk from the front of the Weston Hotel to the front door of the bus at 6 o'clock in the morning to catch our flight after a game in Winnipeg. The coldest I've ever felt, and um, I just didn't like playing in that building. I didn't like being in Winnipeg. It was too cold for me. Um, that would have been the one. I mean, I would have gone played there if I had to. I would not refuse a trade there. But if I had my choice, it would probably be my last choice of the National Hockey League. I thought I was going to get drafted to the Quebec Nordiques at number 5 in 1988. They were talking about because they had 2 picks in the top 5. They had number 3, which they took Curtis Lecision, and they needed a forward. So I thought I was going to be the one they were going to take since I was playing in Hull. I played in the Quebec Junior League. I thought I was going to be done. going to Quebec, which I would have been happy with because I mean I already played there.
Yeah.
I loved being in Quebec, so it was fine with me. But they picked that that day at fifth overall, probably the worst first round pick in the history of the National Hockey League, picking a fighter in Daniel Doré, number 5. Like I'm sure that the scout who told them to draft Daniel Doré, number 5, was fired and never got another job in the National Hockey League.
That's probably fair.
Yeah.
That's
No,
not a
yeah,
bad call like
yeah,
that.
I think so too. Yeah, I think it's good for everybody. Yeah.
But I'll
Um,
thank, but that's good. It's good by me because I ended up in Chicago, so it worked out fine for me.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm Canadian, but I think I'd rather play for the Hawks than
yeah,
Hawks for the Jets.
yeah. I agree.
Um, I mean, you played in Chicago. You love Chicago. Was there anybody that you played with that really stood out to you that like me and this guy clicked? Like I love playing with this guy.
Well, I would say Tony Amonte was my soulmate of wingers, and I say that because I played with him for so long. I played with him in high school since I was 13 years old. We dominated the prep league in Boston at Thayer Academy, and then we ended up playing together on World Juniors. I remember in 1988, the World Juniors. My line was me, um, Mike Modano, and Tony Amonte, which was pretty cool. That was a good line to
Yeah,
have.
that's a half decent line. Yeah.
Yeah,
Scored a
but
couple
yeah,
times.
but Tony and I could play with our eyes closed. We knew where each other were. We were just we were always in sync, and it seemed like we had chances to score every single time we were on the ice. So Tony Monty is definitely my soulmate of wingers for sure.
Is there anybody that you fucking hated playing with?
Yeah, I hated playing with Roman Czechmanek from Philadelphia. I couldn't stand him. Didn't want to get anywhere near him. I wouldn't go back to Philly if he came back after that first year that I played with him. He didn't want to be there. He played when he wanted to play. He'd rather go to the World Championships and play for Czech Republic rather than play for a Stanley Cup. And yeah, so I couldn't stand playing with him. Oleg Treverdowski, even though he was a great player, bothered the hell out of me because he always screwed up every practice. He'd screw up the drill because he wouldn't listen. He wouldn't do the drill right. Made us do it all over again. So I wasn't a big Oleg Treverdowski fan. Um, but I've seen a couple players that really irked me because they weren't all in, and you had to pull them in order to get them to play.
Also, to another one, is there ever a guy I know being back when you played, it was a lot tougher, and the game was dump it in and go in the corner and dig it out. Was there ever a guy on like you would play on the opposite team that you'd be not worried that he was on the ice, but you kind of had an extra eye out to make sure
Yeah, and
you didn't have your
yeah,
head down or
Darius Kasparaitis, without question,
Not a name
without
I was
question,
expecting.
yeah, neither.
without question, one of the scariest players that I played against because he was so mean and loved to inflict pain. And he was a great player. Like he was very, very good defenseman. And I just remember playing against him. If he had a chance to step up in that center ice with your head down and you had your head down, you were going to get knocked the fuck out. Like, no question. And he would slash you and he would punch you and he would do everything he could to try to inflict pain. And I have a lot of respect for him because he was a great competitor. I would have loved to have him on my team, but you had to have your head up, and I always had my head up every time I played against Darius.
I mean, that's somebody who had to keep your head up. Is there anybody that you like welcomed fighting, like you would just enjoy battling with?
Well, I don't know why it happened, but Mark Bell always seemed to want to fight me all the time. I played when I was playing in Philly. I think I fought Mark Bell 3 times in 3 consecutive games, and I mean, I don't think I ever beat him, but I didn't lose bad to him. I mean, he's a big boy, big
Yeah.
strong kid, and I watched the videos of our fights on YouTube quite often. I kind of think to myself, why am I fighting this guy? It's just crazy. But I mean, if you look at my fights, I fought some pretty fucking tough guys,
Mm-hmm.
like
Oh yeah.
big time tough. I fought Miter McSorley twice. I fought Craig Berube once. I fought, like I said, I fought Mark Bell. I fought Darcy Tucker a couple times. Probably my best fight that I had um, was against Scott Walker when he was in Vancouver. That that that's that's a good one. That's a good one to look up on YouTube because it was. I mean, it was a punching match, and he caught me with some bombs, but I didn't go down. But it was. But there's nobody there really that I was. I always went after Konstantinov with Detroit too. He seemed to always bother me, and I always seemed to try to go after and fight him all the time because he frustrated me like no other.
I mean, I couldn't imagine like what's that conversation like before you start dropping the myths?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you see when it's two like actual fighters, they're patting each other after the fight, but like how does something like that like just amuse me? Like what does that look like? You're at the face off before you drop these gloves.
It's just a lot of swears. It's a lot of calling each other names. Sometimes you throw the mother in there. You throw a mom joke in there, and then it's pretty much asking if you want to go. Are you gonna go? Are you gonna go? Let's go. Let's go. And you're gonna find out really quick whether they want to oblige or not. So,
I mean, if somebody says no, I mean, is that kind of
like when we told you that you could swear, and
yeah,
if we said we didn't, you were gonna do
I mean,
it
it's happened.
anyways.
Yeah, it's happened. It's happened for sure. I've tried to go with a bunch of players, and I remember trying to go with Radek Dvorak one time, and he refused. So I pummeled him anyway, and got got clotheslined by Brian Berard afterwards. But now pretty much everybody is willing to go at any point.
so? Is like Adam spoke earlier about you remembering your 500th goal, and kind of how it was a bit of a funny one. Is there any goal that stood out in your head like this is probably the best goal of my career?
The Toronto Maple Leafs 2004 Game 6, first overtime, sniped right over Eddie Belfour's shoulder to knock Toronto Maple Leafs out of the playoffs, and they have not won a series since. Best
We're
goal I
both
ever
Habs
scored.
fans, and
So
as you can see over
that's
Adam's
great.
shoulder, my kind of fuck you to Leafs in my man cave is a signed photo of David Ayres, and it says Zamboni guy 6, Maple Leafs 3.
Yeah, yeah. So everybody talks about the Maple Leafs and when they're going to win, a round, and I call it the JR Jinx, just like the Red Sox. They call it Babe Ruth Jinx, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the curse of the Babe. They could not get over it. Well, Toronto Maple Leafs have not won a series since 2004 when I sniped it over Eddie Belfour's shoulder. So I'm still very relevant there. And listen, when I go back to Toronto, there's not a time I don't go back to Toronto where those fans, they show me a lot of respect, and we have great conversations, but they start off by saying, fuck you, I hate you, and I hated you. But I hate that goal that you scored. You've kind of put the curse on us, but it was a great goal. And you're so me and Toronto Maple Leafs fans have a very, very good love-hate relationship for sure.
Well, that's okay. That's one fan base I'm okay with.
I'm not too worried about their
with hating
feelings.
me. Yeah.
Not too worried about their feelings.
Um. So I mean, since hockey, since you've retired, you've had a lot of different ventures. I mean, you have your whiskey business. I'm a big whiskey fan. I can't find it anywhere in Canada.
Right here, baby. There you go.
Well, yeah, I know.
Wilderness
I
whiskey.
look it up and I follow you on Instagram and
It's a this is one of the most special spirits that you'll ever try. We will be in Canada at some point in 2023. As you know, Canada is a very difficult country to deal with when it comes to alcohol
yeah.
because your government wants to have their hands in everything, so they control everything. So we're working to find a distributor to help us through Canada with this. But we have created the best chocolate whiskey on the history of the planet. It's chocolate whiskey, and we have a chocolate orange. And as you see this bottle, we put a flask on the bottle, so we call it the traveling spirit. We put a little spout that's on the front to help you fill up that flask and take it with you. So when you're going out to the pond, shoveling all that snow off the pond, you bring that flask with you. take a couple sips, you're going to be flying on that pond in soon.
Well,
But and we just won our first award as the best bottle creation novelty bottle. So
I seen that, and I mean
yep,
it's
yep,
super cool. I mean, there's not many
yep.
people that put a lot into the design of the bottle, and the fact that you have your own little your flask on it.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll try and get that. I'm getting married
Yeah,
in
well,
the
we did,
fall,
we
so
did,
we'll try and
we
get
did,
that there.
we did something that nobody else tried to do, right? We also tried to do something that's going to be a great gift to give. So when you just said that you're getting married in the fall, that is the best present that you can give your groomsmen or, whoever
Yeah.
you want in your wedding. It
Yes.
is, and I'm telling you the response that we've gotten off of this, I bet you we're at a 99.9%. I love this fucking whiskey rate. That's exactly the response that we get because people can't believe that they don't have a whiskey burn or a hard taste going down. It's the most pleasurable drinking experience you'll ever have. I can guarantee you that.
And I think that was my knock with a lot of the whiskeys I've had is that kind of burn, or depending on the cask
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
the mix,
yeah,
has
yeah.
that burn or that aftertaste. And I
Not,
can't
not
say
to
that I've ever
not
had a
yeah.
chocolate whiskey.
I don't think I've
Well,
ever heard that.
there's not many chocolate whiskeys in the world, but the ones that are out there are to be honest, not very good.
Except
We
for yours.
it took us 18 months. It took us 18 months to create the blend, and it took
Wow.
us 2.5 years to get the bottle to get the bottle made. So we put a lot of time into this, and it was a 2.5 year process until we launched in August. And since we launched in August, we have just been crushing the sales. And I'm very excited to get it into Canada because we know Canadians like to drink. I know that whiskey is a big popular thing up there. Actually, the whiskey that we buy is from Calgary. It's Canadian
Wow.
whiskey. So I'm representing you guys up in Canada, and you guys have been very special to us in terms of the whiskey. And Canada does make phenomenal whiskey. So yeah, it'll be up there soon. I hope sooner than later. But
Yeah, I'm
it's
looking
good if
forward
you
to getting
pass
my
on the
hands
word.
on a bottle.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
I know you've also dabbled and promoted a lot of CBD. Do you want to talk a little bit about that as well?
Well, I believe in it immensely. I think with all the injuries that I've had over the years, and with the advancement of obviously with sciences and health, you see what's happening in marijuana with the THC and how actually THC has really helped a lot of cancer patients, a lot of other aspects of people that are sick with certain diseases. But it's the CBD that really is it's a wonder drug. I truly believe that once it gets into your skin system and gets into your blood system, it really it helps with the inflammation. It helps with with the tears and the wear and tear of your body. Um, I have CBD roll-ons that I put on all my aches and pains pretty much every night. I am a big believer in it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I do the same with the topicals. It's
Mm-hmm.
very like I've had A535 and all that, and you're sticky and
Mm-hmm.
it's gross and it's
Yeah.
but I find the CBD works so much better than any of that.
Absolutely. And whether you take it orally or you put it on the outside to let it soak into your skin, I think, anybody that has like not the big injury, but the aches and the pains and the things that really kind of bother you, that it seems to really work to subside the uncomfort that a lot of people have with with inflammation.
So another big topic thing that you've done since retiring, you've been big in the celebrity poker world.
Mm, yeah.
So, I mean, how does one get into the celebrity poker?
Losing with aces is probably just as bad as losing in the Stanley Cup, to tell you the truth. It sucks. It's a terrible feeling, especially when you played so long in a poker tournament. You have pocket aces, and they get snapped by pocket nines. And I've always been a poker player ever since I was a rookie in my rookie year of Chicago, because all the Chicago Blackhawks were big card players. So they taught me how to play poker when I was 18 years old, and I've had an opportunity to play in a bunch of tournaments, and I was able to go in the World Poker Tour over in Barcelona to play in a couple tournaments. So, which you probably saw on television or at least on YouTube.
Mhm.
It's been going around a lot lately. No, I think it's a great game. I'm a big poker fan, big betting fan. So, anywhere I can win money, I'm going after it.
So you're a fan of the whole like FanDuel, Bet99. I mean,
Sure,
those are Canadian,
absolutely,
but
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. I always said I don't know why the United States government doesn't become the bookie and just open up a big gambling shop and just be the bookie for everybody and just control it the way they want to. Um, obviously the FanDuel and the DraftKings and all these different things that are going on. They're paying their hefty price to the government, but it's going to be interesting to see how these leagues handle it, how the referees handle it. I think if you guys saw the Michigan game the other day, the football game, um, I think those referees were definitely um, were being told who they wanted to win.
Yeah, it wasn't. I did watch the game, and yeah, I didn't. Like, I'm a big football guy. Sit down from 1 o'clock till 8:30 on Sundays, and I don't know what was going on, but I think there was definitely some fingers in pockets, and
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that the leagues have to worry about is the gambling aspect, and make sure that it's safe, that they have good referees in play, that it's fair and square, because we've all seen things that happen in games that there is no way that they could call that the way that they called it. And that Michigan game on Saturday, there was about five or six things that those referees did that prevented Michigan winning that football game.
also too with the poker when you were still playing hockey. Did any big poker games break out between players? Like, was that a big thing for you guys in, like,
When I was
plane
in
rides
yeah,
or?
when I was in Phoenix, we you wouldn't go on the plane without $10,000 or $20,000 in cash getting ready for
Wow. Holy
yeah,
jeez.
yeah, yeah,
Did things
yeah,
never get heated?
yeah.
Like, not like as in
Well,
physically, but like,
yeah. Well, the most heated it got, I wrote in my book that one day we had a pot in a plane that was worth about $115,000, and it
wow.
was me and Keith Kachuk going at it, and we decided to split the pot, and everybody got mad because, and Keith, being the captain, put an end to that and allowed us to split the pot because neither of us wanted to you know, lose the pot or know what we were having to give in if we lost the pot. So there's a lot of crazy things that happen like that during the trips for sure.
Who's the best poker like hockey poker player other than yourself, obviously, that you've played with?
Travis Green, Travis Green,
Really?
Travis Green, Rick Tocchet. Those guys are the two best poker players I've seen ever, and
Who's
as hockey players go.
and who's the worst?
That's a good question. I would have to say any Russian that I ever played with.
That's great.
I mean, you've also dabbled in celebrity golf, so I guess same question there. I mean, who's the best hockey golf partner you've had?
I've had a couple great golf partners. Brett Hall is an amazing golfer. Mario Lemieux is a phenomenal golfer. Ray Whitney is an amazing golfer. Uh, Joe Pavelski, amazing golfer. Mike Modano, great golfer. There's a lot of good hockey guys that I've played with, whether it's Marty Brodeur, whether it's probably one of your guys' favorites is Carey Price.
Yeah,
Very, very good golfer, great guy too. I love Carey Price. Always been a fan of his on and off the ice. So I'm sure you guys would like to hear that. But
very happy.
hockey players usually pan out to be good players. Pierre LaRouche was a great player. So yeah, we make good golfers.
Is there anybody that surprised you with how bad they were?
How bad they were.
Yeah.
I never played with them, but every time I watch Ovechkin swing a club, I'm like, thank goodness he can score goals.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't want to point out trends, but that's
Yeah.
another Russian.
That's yeah.
I love the Russians. I absolutely love playing with the Russians. They were so much fun. And you want to talk about teammates that were great to be with in the locker room and outside the locker room, and it just great teammates. Love them.
Um, I know you were kind of comparing some of the great players that he's played against at the international level.
Oh yeah.
Um, I don't know if you want to
Yeah.
talk a little
Well,
bit about
like
that.
yeah, when you played for the World Juniors, you played against the Soviets that were strong. Like I think McGillney had like 21 points in 88 or something like that. I can't like I'm not exactly sure. Like when you were playing, like and you played these guys where you were like, okay, is this like, they're just gonna be good here, or were you like, I'll see you in the NHL and I'll show you what I have as
Oh
well?
yeah. Well, when I told you in '88, my line mates were Tony Amonte and Mike Modano. When we played the Russians, it was Pavel Bure, Mogilny, and Fedorov. I mean, I mean,
Yeah.
come on, yeah. And then you had Teemu Solani in Sweden, in Finland. You had Matt Sundin in Sweden. You know, you had some phenomenal players that we were playing against back then. But yeah, you knew who was going to the league and who wasn't. That's for sure.
Was there any goalie you ever didn't want to face? Like
I hated
this?
Marty. I hated Marty Brodeur. Hated playing against him.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of another guy that would probably feel that exact same
Yeah.
way. Probably
No,
Sean
I love. No, I
Avery.
love. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he
Yeah.
didn't like playing against him, but I love playing against. I love playing against Patrick Waugh because him and I always went at it all the time, and I think I scored probably more goals against Patrick than any other goaltender. Either him or Felix Potvin was my that I always felt like I was going to score on them every time I played against them.
Was Patty Roy as fucking wild on the ice as he was behind the
Mm-hmm.
bench? Yeah, that's,
Yeah, yeah, but the craziest guy of all time was Ron Hextall, without question.
Yeah.
He
that's
was,
fair.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I
yeah,
think
yeah,
there's enough video evidence to
Yeah.
show that that
oh yeah,
guy
yeah,
is just
yeah,
zero
yeah.
fucks given.
He's almost hit me in the head with a few pucks. Yeah, for sure. Let alone sticks and gloves and everything in between. Yeah,
And like
crazy.
I'm from being on the ice and being privy to these conversations, like what sets these fucking guys off? Like,
They want to win. That's it. These guys were crazy. This losing was no option, and the competitive level was so high. And you know, it was a hard time to play back in the early '90s. I mean, there's no instigator rule. You had to be responsible for yourself, and if you were not responsible, you were going to have to pay the price. There was no hiding. There was no hiding in the corners. There was no nothing. If you're doing something stupid like they had in the 2000s, where players just were on the ice just to run around and be assholes and be instigators and be antagonists. You didn't do that in the early '90s because there'd be a lineup of people ready to pound your ass, and you just had to be prepared. You had to stick up for yourself, and you had to be accountable for how you played.
I mean, probably a question that I mean isn't asked often, but you wore 27 when you started your career, and then you switched to 97. Was there any meaning behind either of those numbers?
Yeah, '97 was when my son was born. When I got traded to Phoenix, so that was my first year in Phoenix, and I wanted to kind of leave 27 behind in Chicago. That was kind of a legacy that I wanted to leave back there. And I thought it was perfect. Nobody else wore 97 in the league, so I was the first one at the time.
Yep.
And I always liked that being a little unique. And my son was born, so it kind of new start in Phoenix. Son was born in '97, so it was a no brainer number
And
pick.
you know what? There's only one other 97 I can think of, and he probably wore it after seeing you wear it, and that's Connor McDavid.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, there was one other one. There's one other one that used to play for Columbus, and he actually got traded to Phoenix, but they didn't allow him to wear '97 in Phoenix as a defenseman. I can't remember what his name was, but he did wear it in Columbus, but he didn't last that long.
Yeah, and I mean a little bit of a difference between Jeremy Roenick and
Whoever this
whoever the
guy
fuck
was.
that guy was,
Yeah.
and then Connor McDavid.
Yeah. Well, they took the number off him as soon as he got traded to Phoenix anyway, so that was it.
Good. Is there anything else you have for him?
Not really. Like, it was, I loved watching you play hockey growing up. I wish hockey was still like that nowadays. Cause like you said, when you
Mhm.
do something on the ice, I'd be responsible. And nowadays you do something on the ice and some guy touches that guy and there's a penalty. And now, like, I know
Yeah.
there's always been talks about taking fighting out, but I'm glad that like
Yeah.
what hockey was back when you were playing was nowhere near what
It
it is
was it,
nowadays.
it was definitely a more physical, meaner game back then. Still with a lot of talent,
Yeah.
I still think these players today are the best, most talented players that have ever gotten on the ice in terms of what they can do on two skates, the speed that they play on. But I do think that these players are so fast that their brains can't keep up with them, which makes Connor McDavid so good. What makes McKinnon so good. These guys can do that at such a high level, but the game is definitely not as precise as it used to be, but it's definitely fast and definitely talented. There's no question about it.
So before we sign off, JR, there's one last question that we've asked the other few retired players that we've had on. If you were playing in the NHL today and you could pick your line mates, who would you want on your line?
And that's
you can
just on the
mix
front
and
side.
match teams. You don't have to.
On the front side. On the front side.
Yeah.
Wingers.
Yeah.
Well, there's. I mean, it would be easy. It would be easy to say Connor McDavid, right? That would be easy. But I think taking away the obvious with McKinnon and McDavid, who are just phenomenal. The Tage Thompson is a lot of fun to watch.
I love watching. He's easily become one of my favorite players.
This kid is, to be 6'6" or whatever the size he is and have the hands that he has. That would be probably a lot of fun to play with. And Patrick Kane is always one of my favorites. So I want Patrick on my side.
Yeah, he's a beauty.
Because not only will he score score a goal when I pass it to him, but he can also dish to me when I needed to score. So you need one of those guys on your line.
Yeah, and I mean, I would love playing with a JR type player, and I definitely think I'm kind of a Tage Thompson. You look at my men's ball hockey league stats, you'd be impressed.
That's pretty cool. No, I like the guys that can do it all. Tage Thompson can do it all. Patrick Kane can do it all. So it's yeah.
Well, Jeremy, we thank you for coming on. I mean, I think I can speak for Adam and myself whenever we say we were both kind of starstruck and we were testing each other today, like, holy fuck, like we were talking to Jeremy Roenick tonight.
Very cool. Well, I could tell you guys were very eager when you were sending me the Zoom call 3 weeks ago, getting ready to go. So I appreciate your eagerness, and it's been a pleasure being with you guys. Anytime you need me, I could be here for you. You guys are awesome.
Well, we appreciate that, and we'll definitely reach out to you in the future. And I mean, like I said, thanks for taking the time. You definitely didn't have to do this, but we appreciate it.
You got it.
And we hope to have you back on in the future.
You got it. All right, guys.
Awesome.
Have a good one.
Thanks, JR.
See you guys.
All right, everybody's favorite segment is back. 5 Minutes for Fighting, featuring Paul Chance and Corey Payment. Both played in the Federal Hockey League in the Ligue Nord American Senior and the LNAH. So we're back to talk about some more fighting in those leagues and some crazy stories. You're not going to want to miss this. So we welcome back Corey and Paul. Let's go.
How about the first game of the playoffs or in the finals against Saint Jean when we got robbed, when we got everything in the room? After I think the first period, Joel, we come out of the room, we come out of the bench, we go to the room, dressing room, and as we walk into the room, everything is gone. They emptied out the whole locker room. So anything like jackets, clothes, all your keys, all your wallets, everything is gone. And it's like right behind the bench. So these people, I don't know if they were lucky or if they were stupid, but it wasn't, I don't think the calculation was, I don't think the trade would have been good if anybody would have been, like, you're talking about 50 feet. Anybody going to the locker room, like, that got hurt, or anybody going to fix a skate would have seen that, and then that would have been a rumble. Oh, wow. If they would have got caught, yeah.
So what? Did they just pack stuff in hockey bags and take off?
Yeah, exactly.
The way I figure it, they took 2 hockey bags, one in each room, and just went around the room and unhooked everything and just threw them in those, because there was only 2 hockey bags. Like they went, unhooked everything that was hanging up and dumped them in the one hockey bag in the one room and one hockey bag in the other room.
Wow.
Oh, it was crazy.
So did they steal from both teams or just you guys?
No, just us, just our side. Because the other side, like they have their own dressing room. We were using like the minor hockey type of rooms. So we had like two rooms. The end of the hallway was right beside the exit. So these people actually like they thought about it, but still, if anybody would have been like coming out through that corridor, I mean, that would have been like, oh my goodness, with the guys we had on that team, oh mon Dieu, wow.
Well,
So
Oh,
what do you
wow.
like? You guys come back after the first period, and what the hell do you do?
well, Desarmo was livid.
Oh, the cup.
Was livid. I think the Zamboni was doing the ice, and he went across to Saint Jean's exit, and he was yelling at management for Saint Jean, and he was ready to kill somebody.
Oh, it wasn't pretty. I remember, okay, so we're gonna play the game of we won't name names, and but I remember somebody in the organization ran up into the booth, into one of the private lodges, and the president at the time I think he was interim president or whatever, and he took the beating of his life. The league president he took a shit kicking for sure. He took n'imagine ça, on va le dire, oh yeah, right during the game. So that's how, and nobody got suspended for this, and the president just stayed in office. Oh,
so he just
wow.
got his ass kicked and said nothing.
Yeah, well, he said, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what happened, but I remember nobody got suspended for this, but he took a beating. Oh yeah, because I remember. Sorry, my lights went out here. We went in the playoffs. We're playing. Okay, we're gonna do the not naming cities this time. We won't name the city. I won't name the hotel.
But before you move on,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
You guys, like, so you don't have your keys, you don't have your wallets, you have no clothes.
Shit, yeah.
How the fuck do you leave the rink?
That's the other thing, guys. Some of the cars were like started, or they had tried with the remotes, and like some of the hoods or the trunks were popped, but they weren't able to. They didn't leave with the car. But some cars they tried to steal some of the cars. They tried to steal stuff out of the cars. They tried to empty out. Yeah, it was great. I went to gas my car. I fueled my car up on. I'll always remember. I stopped on DeCarry Boulevard in Montreal. Got off the highway to gas. I got my underwear on because I don't have jeans. I got nothing left, right? So I'm wearing my underwear. And I walk up to the thing to pay, and she won't let me in. And I looked at myself. I'm like, you know what? I probably wouldn't let myself in either. Oh, wow, it was great.
So what? Yeah. What happened? It's free.
I can't remember, but I ended up paying. I think she gave me the Interact thing through maybe with the window or something. But I remember she never let me in.
I was traveling with the trainers from Cornwall. I think me and Kenny were the only guys that traveled with the so I kind of just snuck in their truck. But the last vision of that game was me looking back and LP Charbonneau with his bag on his back in a towel.
Oh yeah.
Oh, gee. Wow.
Yeah, no shirt, just a towel wrapped around his waist. And this is nuts, man.
Yeah, it couldn't have been the team. Like at first, guys were thinking this and that, but like we had friends on the other team, right? We'd played hockey with we knew most of that team. And that wouldn't have been. I have a hard time believing it would have been the organization. Like that would have been stupid.
I mean, to know where it is, like the first thing that comes to my mind is like the rink rats. Like you know. Yeah,
they tried. I know there was an investigation. Like the cops got into that, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if anybody got if they actually found anybody on that, but a lot of I remember the guys doing their insurance claims too. That was funny. I want. Yeah, I stayed kosher on that one, but some of the guys are oh yeah, I got this, I got that. I'm like, oh boy.
Well, it's just like whenever you have a fire, right? Oh, I got the brand new 65 inch.
Mais oui, mais c'est ça, là. Aïe, aïe, aïe.
Ouais.
Wow.